Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Anything that you wish to discuss? You're pointing at me. Anything you want to discuss?
There's a delay. I'm letting you know you're on the air, Lowell.
Oh, okay, I'm on the air.
It's the delayed version.
Anything
New
you
Brunswick
wish to
Internet.
discuss today, folks? The lines are open. I hope they're open. Anything that concerns you, interests you, as always, we welcome your call, your text, whatever. Let's start with a question. The papal visit. Pretty well have to ask that question. What is your candid opinion about the whole thing? Did the Pope do the right thing? Are you pleased that he came? Do you even care? Do you think this is probably the key question. Do you think it's going to have any beneficial effects at all? I'm kind of disappointed. There are no question that some Aboriginals, Native people, seem very pleased and happy and content that all of these apologies have been made. But on the other hand, we still have complaints. Oh, he didn't say this, and he didn't say that, and he didn't say it here, and he didn't say it there. The craziest complaint of all, and I've got a few words to say about this, is the complaint that he should never have worn that native headdress, the war bonnet. That's what they were, war bonnets. Well, first of all, as you pointed out, John, the war bonnet was presented to the Pope by an Aboriginal chief. And he put it on. He thought it was the polite thing to do. But I have to comment about this whole war bonnet because the war bonnets, these eagle feathered headdresses, very ornate in some cases. By the way, some of them are made in China. Did you know that? Oh yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Actually, you can buy a small one for a child from China for $9.95. I just thought I'd pass that on. But
I had one as a kid. I will confess. My grandfather got me an Indian headdress as a kid. I was playing cowboys and Indians. I didn't know better, right? We all did that as kids. Here come the email. Yeah, here come the emails now.
We all played cowboys and Indians. Let's be honest.
Yes, sir.
It was a different world, different mentality. But you know, this whole business of the war bonnet, the headdress, this is so typical of the whale poop that surrounds this whole native issue, the mythology, the lies, the nonsense about great stewards of the world and so forth. It's mostly just whale poop, baloney, buffalo chips, and the headdress is the best example. This headdress, the war bonnet, was never worn by natives in Canada. It is not a Canadian culture. As a matter of fact, the war bonnet headdress was worn only by a few members of some of the American Plains Indian tribes, the Crow, the Sioux, the Blackfoot, and Lakota, in some cases, created these war bonnets and wore them. And just to further rub the sand in here, they're very misogynist because they were never, ever worn by women, strictly males. So here we are led to believe that somehow or other, this headdress, or whatever you want to call it, was placed on the Pope. And this is a terrible thing because, according to some natives, these headdresses are sacred. They're not sacred. Who says they're sacred? They're not even Canadians. You know what they are? They are a cultural appropriation from the Americans. Now, this is the big thing on the left. The woke, they're always talking about cultural appropriation. You're not even supposed to write a book now. Like, if you're not Mexican, you're not supposed to even write a book about Mexico or involving Mexico or Guatemala, unless you are actually Mexican or Guatemala, etc. This is called cultural appropriation. Well, the natives here are just like everybody else. they get caught up in stuff, but the headdress is strictly, I repeat, a Plains Indian from the plains of America, the United States of America, not Canadian. It's cultural appropriation and it's very misogynistic. So don't come crying to me talking about the fact, oh, the Pope wore one of these sacred headdresses, to which I just simply reply, bullshit. Okay, put that in your pipe and smoke it. It's unbelievable. There were, in the first place, these are supposedly eagle feathers, and I guess the real, in the plains they had eagles, but to my knowledge, certainly in those days, I don't think we had eagles in eastern Canada. We certainly had eagles the other side of the Rockies. But I repeat, this headdress, this whole business. Every time you see them, these headdress. That's not Canadian. That's cultural appropriation. Oh man, but anyway, that's sort of an aside issue here. But I just couldn't resist passing this information on. I get so sick and tired of all of this stuff. You know, I spent a number of years living and going to school in Orillia, which at one point was sort of the central area of the Huron Indians. The Huron, and I can use the word because they were called Indians in those days. All right. So the Hurons were among the only natives in this part of the country that actually engaged in a little bit of agriculture. They planted corn, etc. So every time I get into a debate with a native or one of the woke people about natives and what a wonderful history they have, and I say, whatever happened to the Hurons? They were quite peaceful, engaged in that. Whatever happened to the Hurons? There's hardly any. I'm not sure if there's a single Huron left. Nobody can tell me. Well, I'll tell you what happened to the Hurons. They were wiped out by the Iroquois. The Iroquois essentially decimated the entire population, not the white man. The Iroquois wiped out the Hurons. So don't talk to me about how Indians were so pristine and and we white people were the murderers. Come on. All right, let's move on. On another topic, and by the way, I would like your impression the of the papal visit. Was it worthwhile? And it's really disturbing when you think about it. Here's an 80, whether you like the Catholic Church, whether you care about the Catholic Church or the Pope, whatever your thoughts are. Here's an 85-year-old man in frail health. 10 hours it took him to get here. I would suggest that it probably risked his health. As an 86-year-old, I'm going to tell you 10 hours in an airplane wouldn't help my health. I'll tell you that right now. So he comes over here and he apologizes, about 3 times, travels, and I'm sure very stressful for him. And he gets criticized. He didn't say this, he didn't say that, and and he wore the headdress. I just throw up my hands, say, listen, he was invited here. We have natives in this country who for decades have been asking for exactly this. He did it, and it's not good enough for some of them. It's kind of tragic in a way. You may have some thoughts on that. On another topic, let's move to Ottawa City Hall. I'm going to tell you something, folks. The existing councillors keep dropping out, and I think it's a good thing. I think we need a total turnover at City Hall. We need a whole new administration, a new way of looking at things, a new way of perhaps cutting costs considerably. What prompts this comment today is a conversation I had yesterday with a young man whose job it was to get access to the City Hall electrical panel room or whatever all of the electrical stuff and so forth and the internet comes in. He had to get into that room for a purpose as part of his job. Totally legitimate. Well, you know how long it took him to get permission to get in there? Like the better part of an afternoon. This is a guy. I mean, he's private enterprise, and he's got a job to do, and he spends most of the day or a good half of the day just trying to find someone who can give him permission. One of the main problems, you know what it was, John? One of the main problems, security at City Hall is farmed out. let me just get through this, okay?
Right.
There are 12,408 full-time employees at City Hall. There are 6,942 part-time employees at City Hall, for a total employment, full and part-time, 19,350 people. And they have to farm out security? They can't get somebody in City Hall to do. Then the same thing, I ran across the same thing with the legal department. There are 50 highly paid people in the City Hall legal department, but I swear to God, every time there's a legal problem of any magnitude, what do? They farm it out at huge cost. You could now, I don't know about the other. I suspect that this same sort of situation exists in all kinds of departments. We've got almost 20,000 people working at City Hall, and apparently nobody can do, including a legal department, but nobody can do legal work there. We've got almost 20,000 employees, but apparently nobody can just simply say, "Yeah, we'll let you into this electrical room." And that, to me, that's just reflective of the kind of mentality at City Hall and the reason that our taxes are so bloody high, and the light rail won't work, or hardly anything else will work. So we need, and if anybody has had any experience in this regard, trying to get through to City Hall, trying to get any resolution of any kind, did you know that they're full and part time? There's almost 20,000 employees. I mean, this is a city of only about 1 million people. Come on, 20,000 employees, and they have, but that's not the end of it. They got to farm out a lot of the stuff. They got to farm out security, farm out legal, probably farm out other stuff as well. I don't know. 20,000 employees, and you can't get anybody to open a door? Tabarnak.
Well, would the
John,
responsibility for that not lie with the person who booked that company to come in and do whatever work they were doing? Would that not be their contact person? Hi, I'm here. Let me in.
well, if one of the problems, this is my son, by the way. One of the problems was,
Oh no,
he couldn't find couldn't phone City Hall. He just simply thought, I have to get into that room, and they didn't know what he was talking about. They didn't know where to go. Couldn't give him any information. Who would be able to do this?
Brother.
So finally, he gets through to security. Security, as this farmed out company, said, "Well, we can't do it. It's it's way that we." And it just went on and on. It was like this. I mean, this is a simple thing. He represents a major company. It's a major Canadian company that he represents. Just wants to get in to check something in this room, and it takes him all afternoon. And God knows how many City Hall employees involved in this. If that, I guess the point I'm trying to make, if there's that kind of bureaucracy, red tape, and baloney going on with a simple little thing, can you let me into this room? Can you imagine the kind of stuff that goes on with other problems? Hey, tickle my fanny. John, what sort of response are we getting here? Anything?
Yeah, I've never had any issues with City Hall, and I've been doing, podcasts with city councilors, etc. It's walk up and, who are you? Okay, one phone call and I'm in. But anyway, I'll take your son the next time. Maybe we'll have better luck together. No comments yet regarding City Hall, but of course, people are playing catch up on that. Let's begin with a text, shall we? And it gives me an opportunity to give the number out, because we invite your texts, we invite your phone calls as well at 613-413-2217. This is from Alberta. Do you think it's odd that the Liberal government sent back the turbines to Russia for the Nord Stream pipeline, then suddenly the WNBA female basketball star Brittany Griner may be released? Are we working with the States now and not helping our Ukrainian friends? She was stupid enough to bring drugs to Russia. Leave her there. Canada needs to stay out of this.
Well, this whole business with the turbine, apparently there were about 6 turbines that we returned. And, we were told, Trudeau said, well, this is to help our friends in Germany. If we don't do this, they're going to be short of oil and gas, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to freeze in the dark this winter. So we returned the 6 turbines, which is a great favor, not to Germany, but to Russia. And guess what? Russia claims, well, they weren't repaired properly, so we're going to have to cut back the supply of gas to only about 20% anyway. So we went through all of this. We alienated the Ukrainians and we helped the Russians, and in the end, we didn't help Germany at all.
The Russians pulled a fast one. Shocking!
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's
Who
so
saw
typical.
that coming?
So typical of this government, though. I mean, They say, "Oh, we told the president of Ukraine, we've got your back." This is Trudeau's favorite expression. We've got your back. Says this to the auto workers. We've got your back. Says this to the oil workers. We've got your back. Says this to the Ukrainian. We've got your back. Yeah, right. Yeah, he's really got your back. Go ahead, John.
Jamie's on Twitch and has a question for you. Maybe this makes sense to you, Lowell. I'm not making sense of it. Lowell, can we get your opinion on this whole cross story in Montreal?
The cross story. I don't know what you're talking
cross into capital. Jamie, if you could extrapolate on that a little bit, please. Meanwhile, here come some of the other comments from Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, etc. Greg says, I could care less about the Pope and what happened way before my time. Are the natives just looking for another check? Dean says the CBC routinely play indigenous hip-hop music. I guess that doesn't count as cultural appropriation either.
This thing with the headdress, the war bond, that is, to me, that is just so typical of the mythology bullshit that centers around this whole question. Go ahead.
I mean, all of that would have been pre-planned and pre-worked out, and every single player would know exactly what's going to happen. And frankly, my experience with anybody in any sort of religious or cultural background is when they offer you something, you accept it. That's just the polite thing to do.
Well, as I say, no matter what you think of the Pope, in my opinion, and I have no great love for the Catholic Church or the Pope, but in my opinion, he tried. He tried his level best. As I say, he's 85 years old, frail health, 10-hour trip over here, very stressful. He went to 4 or 5 different locations. Got to be very, very stressful. The guy tried. And you know what? I think that in the end, I think he made a lot of people happy. Huge crowd for him at the Edmonton Stadium. Providing, whether you believe in it or not, it provides hope for, I think for a lot of people. And
Yep.
in the face of it all of this, here's this old man, sick, frail man, and he's criticized because he wore a fake Plains Indian headdress. I mean, it's quite sad. Go ahead.
All right, Jamie's back with a follow-up. He says the Mohawk. I think Mother's Group want to cross atop Mount Royal to be, or want the cross atop Mount Royal to be removed because it's too upsetting for them. The whole memory and significance of the Catholic Church.
The Mohawks are asking for that. I never heard that. I've been underneath that cross many times. It's an iconic symbol, iconic symbol of Montreal, which will never come down, I'm sure. Although these days you never know. Maybe we're going to find that that Jesus was. I don't know. Who knows? Go ahead.
The cross story was all the rage on Montreal talk shows yesterday, adds Jamie. So there you go. Well, we're not paying attention to Montreal enough, I guess, Jamie. We'll try and do better by that. All right, let's go back to text, 613-413-2217. This person says, the Pope cannot undo the horrific damage that was caused. My 82-year-old mother grew up in an orphanage, experienced abuse, witnessed abuse. Catholic Church must acknowledge their wrongs and spread love.
Well, they did acknowledge their wrongs. The Pope, that's exactly what the Pope did. What else do you want the Pope to do? I mean, folks, you're critical. What else do you want? Go ahead, please.
To the City Hall question, David on Facebook says, all the councillors bowing out of the election with the ongoing issues with the LRT. I think it's like rats abandoning a sinking ship.
Well, you can be sure if we had a ship, it would be sinking. Go ahead.
Well, we do. We've got, never mind, our submarines.
No, hold on. The problem with the submarine is they won't sink.
Yeah.
The one ships that we have, they won't sink. Every other
Touché.
ship will sink, but not the one. Oh, go ahead.
Touche. That's why you're the man in charge. All right, to YouTube, and Boo Boo says, Trudeau says he's got your back. Likely just another place for him to stick his knife. Over for him. All right. Kellyanne Lowell, they found out he was your son. They know you don't really approve of Watson, so they gave him a hard time. Had to vet him out before they'd allow him entrance. Eileen says, I live 2 miles from Arn Prior, and I pay Ottawa taxes because of the amalgamation. One councillor I dealt with was Eli. The rest can leave. Yeah,
Eli is leaving as well.
Is he?
Yes, Eli is leaving.
Oh, I
had just announced. Yes. I tell you, I like Eli. I know Eli. And I like him. I think he's done
loves him.
Reasonably good job. My only complaint with Eli is the only sitting member of City Council who took a trip over to Sweden along with a couple of other members at the time and examined their incineration program over there, and came
Right.
back very enthused about it, but never followed up. That was my only disappointment with Eli. Go ahead, please.
20 minutes into the show. So,
Here's once again we're talking about disappointments. One of the places I'm not disappointed is Shields. I've been now talking about them for I guess what about a year now, John.
oh,
And I'm
yeah.
going to tell you, in all of that time, once again, not one single complaint. Now, this is very unusual because there are more than a few people who would love to find something that I said that they can complain about. And I'm sure that some people have had something happen that didn't quite please them. But I'm going to tell you, in a year of talking about Shields, no complaints whatsoever. I've had a number of compliments, a number of people thanking me for introducing them to Shields. So once again, I just want to point out they have a wonderful website. They've now just been approved as the Sony official dealer, but they are the official dealer for almost all of the major brands of appliances. Those appliances are in stock. The prices are very reasonable. It's the same family since 1947. Good people. They'll give you a good deal, good financing plans as well. Shields.ca. John?
All right. The Pope's visit. Was it worthwhile? Your thoughts. And to answer that question, 613-413-2217, another text coming in. The Pope visit has cost millions to taxpayers in Canada and also highway road closures in Edmonton. It's an expensive apology. We should all move on now. Just getting a text in from Deb. Here's a link regarding the story of the Royal Cross. All right, Deb, thank you. We will look at that a little later. I can't post that link on our social media streams, unfortunately, when you text. Fran says, you are 100% correct, Lowell. I honestly think it's our age group who has a clue about all this. The younger generation haven't a clue, and I'm sure a lot of it is down to whatever they have been teaching in history classes. They will never be satisfied. It's totally political, and it's all about the money. All right, Eileen, I'm so sick of all this crap. I'll be glad when the Pope goes home, she says. Let's see what's coming in here. Let's go to, okay, people are just talking amongst themselves. Jamie says, Lowell, cannot tell you how much I enjoy your wisdom and experience. Nothing can replace that. Love your stories. So much education. Thank you, thank you, thank you, says Jamie. All right. Murray, I live close to many reserves in Saskatchewan, and I've seen how the money has never gone to where it was appropriated, and nothing has changed in 60
Actually,
years.
there's a very interesting story in one of the papers today about this. Since Trudeau took over, I'm trying to remember this now from memory. When Trudeau took over, I think we were spending about $20 billion a year, and now he has more than doubled that, and yet there doesn't seem to be any better results. So once again, the question is, okay, we're pouring out about 40 some odd billion dollars a year into the indigenous communities. Where's the money going? If it's not improving the lives of Native peoples, where is the money going? Now, I remember, I don't know if I talked about this or not, but a number of years ago, the mayor, she was a female from Attawapiskat, came down to Ottawa and had a hunger. She was supposedly on a hunger strike. The only thing is they found all sorts of Mars bars wrapper in her tent, okay? She was tenting out some. So she wasn't really hungering very much. But it turns out that she's the mayor of this very remote reserve. There are no roads going into Attawapiskat, okay? But she's got a Cadillac. She flew the Cadillac in by helicopter into her reserve. So she drives this Cadillac up and down the roads in the reserve, but can't drive in or out. And her native people are crying that they haven't got decent housing, they don't have decent water, etc. And she's on a hunger strike driving her freaking Cadillac. Is that how typical do you think that kind of thing is? I fear too typical. Go ahead, John.
Well, yeah, in many aspects of life, I think that's typical, sadly. Fran says no results and no accountability, whereas PM Harper wanted them to be accountable and Trudeau canceled it.
Yeah, so let's just go over that again. One of the things that Harper did was he passed a law saying that there had to be a full accounting of all of the money that came from taxpayers into native reserves, that they had to provide a full accounting, audited account. One of the and I think for a while it worked. one of the first things that Trudeau did when he came is he canceled that bill and said, no, that's too paternalistic. We trust you natives to look after yourselves. So he's more than doubled the amount of money we're pouring in, but the results are no better. The life on the native reserves, for the most part, is no better now than it was when Trudeau came to power. Go ahead, please, John.
Yep. Anne says Harper wanted to see the books on her reserve. All right. Email Lowell@blasttheradio.com. This comes from Paul in Canada, who writes, Hi, Lowell. In these times of repeated inappropriate political influence on Commissioner Lucky and previously on Jody Wilson-Raybould, my impression is that our PM showed his true personality on the floor of the House of Commons shortly after he was first elected. He ran across the floor, elbowed a lady opposition member out of the way, and pulled back a Liberal MP who dared to cross the floor when to talk with the opposition. Aggressive, partisan, overly political, egotistical, and no self-awareness of appropriate boundaries. It's sad. Again,
So, by the
Paul
way,
Canada.
in this regard, as you know, there's an inquiry underway right now into what happened. Was there political interference? Did Bill Blair and the Prime Minister interfere in the police investigation in Nova Scotia? That investigation is well underway, and it's being reasonably well reported, I would think. But when you think back, whatever happened to the we investigations? Have we ever heard anything more about that? And I was going through it this morning. There's about 4 or 5 investigations supposedly underway into malfeasance by the federal government, by the Liberals, and I have no idea what's going on with any of it. It just seems to have dropped off the screen. I'm going to tell you, if this was Conservatives involved in this kind of hanky-panky, you can be damn sure it'd be headlined. It'd be the lead item on CBC News every night. Go ahead, please, John.
To that, Fran just posted on Facebook a second ago. No doubt about it, they interfered and are lying about it. All right, let's go to Kellyanne's comment from earlier. Concerning the residential schools and the Pope, I believe it will never end. Dollars, 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 dollars. She says, let's move on. The priority should be to get these communities clean drinking water.
But don't you think that the Pope deserves some credit? Whether you agree with him, whether you like the Catholic Church, I mean, here is an old, frail man invited here, said that we need to do this, and he's done it at a risk of his own health, I would suggest. As far as I can see, he's doing his best. And as I look around the world today, I don't see too many people anywhere at any level risking their lives in order to do the right thing. I just don't. So here's a man, whether you agree with him or not, he tries to do, or he, in this case, I believe, tried to do the right thing. Maybe he didn't do the right thing, but he tried to. This is what they wanted. Go ahead, please. I think he deserves some credit for that, John.
Leaders trying to do the right thing, the only names that come to mind would be the Pope and probably Zelensky.
Zelensky, yeah. There's a man risking his life, yeah.
Listen, the Pope did exactly what it was the Indigenous peoples of Canada have asked him to do. Come to our territory, to our land, and apologize to our faces. He did that. So why could anybody be upset? They got exactly what they wanted, did they not?
I am afraid that in the minds of some, and I think a number of Texans here have alluded to this, that they don't want it to end because if it ends, it means the money ends. I'm afraid of that. Go ahead, John.
I think that's sad but true. All right. Considering the Pope's health, this should prove the Church's sincere intention and re the apology. All right. Richard says, I bet with the ongoing investigations, if and when Trudeau is called to testify, he will develop COVID again, as he had with the last 2 investigations he was called to attend. What? Trudeau does not know how to use Zoom or Microsoft Teams? Even Lowell Greens figured that out. Fran says there should be no end to the reporting if it was there would be no end to the reporting if it was the Conservatives. Our media is bought and paid for to spew the Liberal diatribe of BS. Gordon, I believe this is the first time we've heard from you. I love getting new names on the screen. Gordon says, I talked to a mayor living on the east side of Hudson Bay. He had the only car and the only road was the air runway. He told me he was the taxi for the people coming to the village from the airport. Pierre says, don't forget that during the hunger strike, Global News sent a young woman reporter to Attawapiskat to investigate spending. The chief called ahead and had her goons put the reporter right back on the plane and get her out of there. Craig says the we investigation was put to bed when JT prorogued Parliament.
Very true. That's
true.
Yeah. But you know what happened? He prorogued Parliament, But what happened? We now know that the Trudeau family, in expenses and outright pay, received very close to $500,000. And what's happening to that? From all I can see, nothing. If you're right, I mean, if this was a conservative, not only would he be hung, strung, put in bed, and the skin of his arse pulled over his head, it would all happen with him with shackles on. Go ahead, please, John.
We got about 3 more comments before we wind things down for another week. It's been a great week. Thank you. And thank you to everybody for spreading word about Lowell Green, and share on your social media. David says, I want to hear Mark Sutcliffe's position on waste to energy. I like him, but if it's not going to be a priority for him, I'm not interested. And says, I don't know whether any healing took place by this papal visit, but it was a major photo op for the government, i.e. Trudeau. And last word to David. The Pope did cancel other trips, but he kept his Canada visit. There you go.
Very true. Thank you all, folks. Have a good weekend. We'll be back on Monday.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.